Hey, how's it going? Today I'm thinking chicken and sausage gumbo, a New Orleans favorite and hopefully soon to be one of yours. Now the first time you cook this it can be a little bit daunting, but don't worry. I'll take you through all the steps and by the time it's done you'll be eating like a true Cajun. So anyway, grab yourself a drink, let's get ready to make roux, and welcome to CWI. Alright, let's start with our seasoning mix. We're going to take a number of herbs and spices, mix those together, sprinkle some of it over the chicken. We're going to put some of it into the flour, and then the rest of it's going to go into the gumbo. So, let's mix together 1½ tablespoons of kosher salt, 2 teaspoons paprika, 2 teaspoons white pepper, 1.5 teaspoons of garlic powder, 1.5 teaspoons onion powder, 1 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, 1 teaspoon of dried mustard, 1.5 teaspoons of freshly ground pepper, and about 3/4 teaspoon of cumin. Alright, let's get to work on our chicken. Hey, Bailey. Alright, well, let's talk chicken. I've got about 5 pounds of chicken breast here, about 2 pounds of thighs. This recipe only calls for about 5 pounds of chicken, but I found out in the past that after it's cooked, there's always a little bit of nibblage. So I do tend to cook a little extra for the cook while everything else is getting prepped. Of course, when you're frying chicken normally, you leave the skin on, nice and crispy, good stuff. However, with gumbo, I take the skin off even before I fry it. It saves a little time, and you don't want a big chunk of skin floating around the gumbo. Just not good stuff. So, I'm going to take the skin off. We've got our seasoning blend here, and we're going to put good dusting on each piece. On the chicken breast, I'm just going to put it on one side, since it really is the only side with the meat in it. And since everything here is going to be fried and cooked, I'm not too terribly worried about cross-contamination. The seasoning mix isn't going anywhere that isn't going to be cooked thoroughly. Alright, well, now that we have the chicken prep, let's turn our attention to the vegetation. And as is with most New Orleans cooking, we're going to start with the trinity: celery, onions, and bell pepper. Going to start off with about 1.5 cups of celery, about 2 cups of bell pepper. I like to use red and green, gives a good color, and a couple of cups of onions. Alright. And because we're going to be working fast and furious when we have the roux going, go ahead and put this all together in one big bowl, because we're going to have to dump this stuff pretty fast when the roux turns ready. And of course this recipe calls for some pork, so get some good andouille sausage, cut it up. I like to do half-moon slices. Alright, let's get our dredge together for our chicken. Got about 1 cup of flour here, and a little more. And I've taken about 1 tablespoon of our seasoning mix that we made, and I've goosed it up a little bit with just about 1 teaspoon of normal Creole seasoning. We're going to flavor up the flour for our chicken. And the same flour is also going to be used in our roux. And again, I'm not too terribly worried about cross-contamination because everything here is going to be fried or cooked for a really long time. So anyway, close up the top, shake it up. Alright, well, it's time to get started cooking here. Got a new toy today. This is the Lodge cast iron 6-quart pot, enamel coated. According to the instructions, the exposed parts, well, the parts here that are black, they're not exposed cast iron. It too is enamel, it's just a different finish on it. Now, I'm going to do things a little bit different. Usually when I start my gumbo, I take a large, heavy skillet or, maybe a fry pan, and I fry my chicken in it, drain off the oil, reserve some, add the flour, make the roux, add the vegetables, and then when that's done, I take a heated pot of stock and I stir that into it. But I'm going to try to do most everything in the new cast iron pot here. So what I've got over here is about 10 cups roughly of rotisserie turkey stock. That's an episode that never made it, but I did a large turkey rotisserie, took the bones off the carcass, boiled it, and I made a really nice stock out of it. So what we're going to do is do the chicken, do the veggies, do the roux, and then we'll add hot stock into that, and that'll begin our gumbo. Let's get started. We're going to pour about 1.5 inches of canola oil to fry the chicken in, but any neutral flavor oil with a high smoke point can be used. We'll heat our oil on high to about 355 degrees, then we'll turn the heat back and adjust as necessary while cooking the chicken. Alright, well, oil's about ready. Let's dust up a piece and get in there. I'm going to do the breast first here, I think. Now we're not deep frying it with a big heavy batter, so you just want to get a light coating, shake most of it off. I'm gonna cut the ribs off of these, make it a little easier. All right, let's give them a flip. It's got a nice golden color going on here. Yeah, it definitely helps to cut that breastbone off. All right, well, got the last of the chicken fried here. Now we're going to pour off all this grease, but we're going to reserve it and use it to make the roux. So we're going to pour it off and try to keep the little brown bits that are already in the pan there. That's just good flavor there. All right, I'm going to pour this into a little smaller measuring cup. I want about half a cup of this. All right, time for the fun part, the roux. Now this can be a little intimidating for people, and if you hadn't done it before, it's perfectly understandable. Personally, my first 27 batches of roux that I did, I had to throw out because I burned them. And in the process, I think I made up about 3 new 4-letter words for the English language. But it's not that difficult, and I'm going to show you how. There's a word of caution. There's a reason they call this stuff Cajun napalm. If it splashes on your skin, it's going to stay there and burn and hurt. But just be careful, it's not going to hurt you. There's a few steps for this. First, if you have your cell phone, turn it off. You're not going to be answering it until the roux is finished. Second of all, if you want a couple of cold beers, put those within arm's reach of the stove, because once we start the roux, we don't stop. It's very simple. We're going to go over medium-high heat, equal parts of flour and oil. We're going to stir those almost constantly with a whisk until it reaches a deep, rich brown color, almost black. At that point, you want to make sure and have your trinity of vegetables close at hand. We'll turn it off the heat, stir in the vegetables. Once it stops cooking, the roux is safe. At that point, you can start assembling our gumbo. So let's get cooking. All right, well, our pot's back over medium-high heat. We're heating up the brown bits that we reserved from frying the chicken. We got a reserved cup of oil, about half a cup. And we're going to use equal parts of our flour. And this is the flour taken that we dredged the chicken in, so it's got a little seasoning in it too. So, as this comes up to heat, we're going to start to stir in our flour slowly and keep it stirring gradual. And let's shake this in gently. This heats up a little bit high. I'm going to turn it down about medium-low. Don't worry about those black bits in there. That's actually part that was done when the chicken was fried. One thing I've always said, I always keep all the flour that I dredge the chicken with. I keep all of the oil that I did it with until I've done the roux. Because if you've actually done one and you have it burned, you can actually throw them out. Now, like I said, there are some black spices in here, and that does sometimes look like a burned roux. The last ones I've done though, I found that that's a lot of the parts that were on the fried chicken part. You don't need to worry about that. A few of them are okay. That's just the seasonings and the herbs that have browned in there. So anyway, we're just going to stir this until it turns a dark brown. About 5 to 8 minutes into it, starting to get a little darker in color. Keep on stirring. All right, I think we're somewhere between 10-15 minutes into it. As you can see, it's starting to get a little darker. And if it starts to get a little out of control, always turn the heat down. You can move the pan on and off. If you want to do this, just keep stirring, because once it gets towards the end, it'll actually go pretty fast. You'll see that it'll be less liquid. It'll almost look a little thicker, kind of like sand and water at that point. And at the point it starts changing colors, getting darker quicker and quicker. At that point, be ready to throw your vegetables in. Alrighty, looks like we've been about 18 minutes here, as you can tell. It's starting to get a little darker here. We're getting closer to the end. Got a pretty nice dark chocolate color here. And at any point here, we can probably go ahead and add the veggies in. As you can see, it's kind of getting a little bit sandy caught in there. Not quite as liquid. The texture just changes when it gets to this stage. We'll start seeing a little more smoke coming off. And I think we're about done here. This is going to incorporate all those wonderful vegetable flavors in there. I'm going to go ahead and cut the heat here just for a little bit. We'll stir this till it kind of quits simmering. It's going to get the vegetables all nice and tender, translucent. Alright, we've been simmering here about 5-10 minutes. Going to add a bay leaf in. Chopped up 3 fresh cloves of garlic, and we've got our reserve seasoning mix that we had left. Add that in. Oh, smells good. All right, at this point we're going to take our pound of sausage and add that in there. Let that start to render out. And we got our rotisserie turkey stock here. Alright, well, we've got all of our turkey stock in there. We're going to bring this to a boil, let it simmer for a while, and when the chicken cools, we'll debone that and add that in too. Alright, well, the chicken cooled off and I've deboned it, and you know, like I said, there's sometimes a little extra for nibbling. Anyway, our gumbo's been simmering for about 45 minutes to an hour. Give it a little time to reduce here. And just stir in our chicken. Alright, time to eat. Got a little rice here. I did it by the pressure cooker PIP, pot in pot method. I won't show it today, but look it on the internet. It worked out really well. Pressure cooker, a little bit of water in the bottom, trivet, stainless steel bowl. Put your rice in there with a little more water, and cooks up nicely. All right. Give it a quick stir. Oh, all right. Time to munch. You always got to add a little bit of hot sauce. I prefer the cayenne pepper sauces like Louisiana brand or Crystal. Tabasco's good, but it's a Tabasco pepper. And it's a little bit more heat than flavor, I think. Perfect. A little Pinot Noir. Oh, wonderful. I tell you, there is nothing like a good warm bowl of gumbo on a chilly winter's evening. Of course, it's almost Christmas here in New Orleans, and today's high was about 77 degrees, so I guess the best you can do is think chilly thoughts and, oh hell. Merry Christmas. See you next time on CWI.